Ink up, slow down, write your rhythm with script and scribe.
Hi everyone, I'm Kat, and today I'm sharing my journey with this Paper Republic Pocket, a journal that I've owned since 2023, and over the past 3 years it's traveled almost everywhere with me. There was a period of time last year when I barely used it because I was mostly working from home, but this year I've rediscovered it and it's been to meetings again, cafes, waiting rooms, on trains, and tucked into countless bags, large and small. It's one of the very few pieces of stationery that I've never regretted buying. In fact, until this year, every time I ran out of paper, I'd simply reorder another batch of the Paper Republic refills. But that was all on autopilot, and this year it's changing, and my reasons aren't controversial, just simply practical. When I bought the Paper Republic setup, it was because I liked more than how it looked. I loved what it represented, with Paper Republic being a small European company that makes these beautiful vegetable tanned leather covers designed to last for decades, not just a couple of years. And I like supporting companies that still make things that way. Companies that focus on craftsmanship, authenticity, and sustainability. Even their name is a nod to the Latin res publica, the common good. And they talk about these journals as lifelong companions rather than disposable products. Of course, they weren't the first. There are several worldwide. And if we go with popular brands at the moment, you can consider the Traveler's Notebook in Japan, which began as a Midori spin-off back in 2006 and is now Traveler's Company. And Paper Republic, this was founded in Vienna in 2012. So it's really that sort of philosophy around sustainability that drew me in, and of course the cover gets better with age rather than wearing out. So you can see that here, every scratch, every crease, every ink stain. It tells a story. It looks really used and not preserved. And I can show you a picture actually of me more than 3 years ago getting ready to journal at the train station a little before 6 a.m. when other passengers weren't around. And you can see it has a natural finish and it looks so different now. Looking back, I realized that I was investing in a cover that I hoped would last 20 plus years. And I think 3 years on, that really bodes well with the way it's looking. So I'm really pleased with it. But like I say, every time I finished a refill, I would simply buy another one. So what changed? Well, my circumstances. When I first bought this and bought the larger one, the XL, in cognac rather than natural, I was working as a senior project manager for NHS England, and replacing a notebook refill wasn't something I thought twice about, especially as it didn't feel worth my time to overthink every stationery purchase. Now, since leaving to build a freelance career, I've noticed how many unused notebooks I have and pens and all sorts of stationery, which is a, happy problem to have. I'm not complaining, but it did get me thinking. So since leaving to build a freelance career, I find myself thinking much more about where my money goes. Not that I'll ever stop appreciating quality. If anything, I probably appreciate it even more. But I ask even more questions now, including, does this purchase genuinely improve my writing experience, my planning experience, my journaling experience, just generally? Is it improving on what I have? Or am I buying it simply because it's what I've always done? If you've watched the channel for a while, you'll have seen me go through a very similar thought process when I was leaving Hobonichi, the Hobonichi Tomoe River paper, the Hobonichi Cousin, and I swapped in the Midori MD and Kinbo Bachron papers. I'm constantly asking whether something still earns its place in my life, and it was a hard thing to do at the time because I'd been using my Hobonichi Cousin for over 4 years. And yeah, I actually haven't looked back. So this year I opened the Paper Republic website, ready to order the refills again, and I stopped myself because usually what I do is, even though I haven't run out of this, because this is a year planner and it barely fits actually. It's made for this XL, but it's just about okay. The more you fill up the pages, the more you start to see an overlap with the inner. But anyway, it's a nice chunky one. But I've got loads of the refills, unused ones for the XL, and I've got them in this planner over here. So I don't need more of those, but generally what I would do is I'd buy quite a big batch so that I wouldn't have to constantly buy. But this time I actually stopped myself, not because I suddenly thought that the refills weren't worth the money. They're £11 for a pack of 2 of these little ones, or £8.80 because I've got my membership, so when you're a member you get 20% off. And the paper is lovely, so we'll do some testing in a while. But the quality is not the issue. The only practical frustration that I've really had over the years was shipping. So every order had taken longer than I'd expected, and I'd usually find myself sending a polite email to check on dispatch. Not once did I have something dispatched within 5 working days. Not the pocket journal, not the XL, and not the refills. This time I'd reached the end of my lined notebooks in the pack because this was a writer's bundle, and I just kept it as a writer's bundle, always getting the lined and blank pages. And I'd run out of the lined ones and still had this one with the plain pages in it. So I decided that I would just look for a pocketbook that made lined and plain. I know that there are squares and grid, so my requirements were really simple. It just needed to fit this cover properly, and it had to work well with fountain pens. It had to cost less but support sustainable forestry, and it had to arrive quickly. And the funny thing about that having to arrive quickly, well, I couldn't have guessed how quick they would arrive, because here's the funny thing, I didn't have to look very far. Like most stationery lovers, and like I mentioned, I used to buy a lot of stationery, all I had to do was shop my own stash. I already had plenty of notebooks at home, so instead of shopping online, I just looked at what I owned and rediscovered Clairefontaine's Life Unplugged notebooks. So these are them. I've just stenciled on this horse, and the red one again is a Life Unplugged, and I've put on one of my, I bought like 300 stickers of Spy X Family accidentally. So everything for 2026 has these stickers on. I'm really looking forward to 2027 when I go stickerless because I've loved them. I think they're really sweet and everything, but I think I've had Spy X Family overload. Anyway, that's an aside. So these Life Unplugged actually fit into this cover, as you can see, but there's a slight size difference, and it's actually a positive in my book because it allows me to put more of the inserts, more of these Clairefontaine inserts in, without that overlap that I was talking about happening when you've got the main inners, the refills, starting to bulk up, and then they start to go beyond the limits of your leather cover. So I've had that happen before with this. I don't really mind it, but when I had several of the Paper Republic inserts in there, then it used to sort of like have all of the notebooks peeking out a little bit. But anyway, these ones are 9 by 14 centimeters, so a standard pocketbook. And Paper Republic is slightly bigger than that, slightly wider. So they're the same height, they're all 14. You can see the height there. But the Paper Republic is slightly broader by 0.5, so it's 9.5 rather than 9. And like I say, it's actually a positive for when you put these inserts into this pocket cover. So I'll do that now. Obviously, the quality of the paper looks very different. You can see that straight away with the color and also the width or the weight of the paper. So they cost around £4.50 for 2 notebooks compared to the £11 for the equivalent from Paper Republic. These are 90 GSM and these are 80 GSM. Both are acid-free paper, both are fountain pen friendly. And the only thing that really stood out for me beyond the color difference and the thickness is also that Paper Republic is FSC certified, which I think is generally regarded as having some of the more rigorous environmental and social standards for responsible forestry. Clairefontaine uses PEFC certified paper, which is still really good in terms of promoting responsible forestry, but I believe that FSC has got the edge. That's not a consideration that I had to take into account too much because I wasn't buying these new, but I like the fact that they're both working towards being sustainable in terms of their paper production. So of course you did mention that the papers look instantly really different. And they feel different. They're both smooth. This one is more satiny smooth. This still feels lovely. But we'll see what they actually write like. So I'll take both of the blank ones, and what we're going to do is use my Platinum 3776 Nice Lavande, and it has a broad nib. I've inked it up with Pannonia Avakska Pansy, which is a vivid purple, and we'll see how these papers handle the writing. There's no feathering and there's no bleed through. There's the lightest ghosting, but it's so minimal. And that's the Clairefontaine. Okay, so I think that the ink sinks into the page for the Paper Republic more, and it looks slightly broader. And where I finished my D, it does look like it was, it would have feathered. Also the ending of my 3 over there and my line over there, but it hasn't truly feathered. And let's have a look at the other side. Okay, so it's got ghosting. It hasn't got bleed through though. So that's definitely ghosting. But like I say, it is a broad nib and it is a fairly wet ink. Now the planner paper in Paper Republic actually appears to be thicker than the 80 GSM, and it performs a lot better for fountain pen paper. So I would also recommend you can go for different types of refills from Paper Republic. You don't have to use the 80 GSM. And I'll have a look and put it on screen to say what this planner paper is. But it is, sorry, I'm hiding that because that's a personal entry. But the rest I don't mind you seeing. But you can see the line there. It is still the broad from 3776. And it looks more crisp. And they're both Paper Republic paper. But the focus is the pockets. So pocket-wise, the Clairefontaine for me performs really well for fountain pen use, and the fact that I have it is brilliant. Now, it's possible that you shop your stash and you find you've got moleskin. I've never had luck with moleskin being fountain pen friendly, but I have seen Seaweed Kisses has found so many moleskin papers that are actually fountain pen friendly, and she said it's dependent on the country of manufacture. So she's had a lot of luck with the ones that are manufactured in Vietnam, for example. So yeah, it's always worth checking to see how your pockets or whatever stash you have, whether it's compatible with a system that you've got and you can repurpose is what I'm trying to say. So I think you can see that they don't just fit beautifully, and in fact there's loads of space for me to put another 2 in there, so there'd be like 4 would fit happily in there, and then it would look nice and bulky but still not overhang the pages with this. Anyway, it works well, and I'm glad that I realized that they fit in here. And beyond that, they are really good with fountain pens, which I tend to use. Of course, if I didn't already own and love this Paper Republic cover and my XL version as well, These days, I would be tempted to make one myself. So 3 years ago when I got this, it didn't even occur to me. But I love these tutorials by Seaweed Kisses, where she's repeatedly shown just how achievable it is with a good piece of leather, a craft knife, some elastic cord. And if you enjoy making things yourself, that's another wonderful way that you can get into doing a customized notebook system like this. And I've linked her how-to videos in case you'd like to do that. Obviously, I don't need to because I have these. So more and more I realize I want to spend my money on things that will last: a beautiful leather cover, a favorite fountain pen, a nib that transforms the writing experience. Those are things I'll hopefully enjoy for years, perhaps even decades. Whereas the consumables like these refills and sometimes ink as well, those are free to evolve with me. I can choose what I am going to be using in these covers depending on my circumstances and depending on my preferences at the time, as I become more thoughtful about what genuinely adds value to my writing experience, as well as considerations of sustainability and reducing my overconsumption of the past. I think you'll also notice that I am not loyal to a single brand any longer. I used to be, so I would always decide on a particular brand and then I would buy everything of theirs, and I would make sure that I am using their products together. So this would have been a no-no for me in the past, and I'm not sure why I had that mental block, because now it just feels perfectly fine. Why not personalize it for me? And I think a lot of people already do that. Sorry, I'm just untangling my little charms here. And I think a lot of people already do that. And, take charms, for example. These two are actually the leftovers of earrings. So I used to wear hook earrings rather than the ones that have a nice closure at the back, and I would always lose the left earring. So these are the remainder ones. These are the ones, my right earrings, and I just took off the hooks and used them as charms. So we got a little frog and just a little glass bead over there. And then this here is a hot diamonds charm with the Scorpio zodiac sign. And then over here I've got a little elephant that my sister gifted me. I think it's green aventurine. So we're already customizing these journals with little charms, and then it's really fun to sort of like go further and find your own inserts if you want to, or if you need to. And also using the elastic cords. I found that I had cord at home from when I used to make jewelry, and these were like for bracelets and all sorts. And it is elasticated cord. Obviously this frays in a way that the Paper Republic one doesn't fray. The other thing is this adhesive pen loop, which I actually used to have on a Rhodia, so it's been repurposed from the Rhodia one, and I've just stuck it into the Clairefontaine refill, and that allows me to put a pen in there. And if I didn't have that, then what I used to do is I'd use another piece of cord, and I would close the inner books with the cord, and then pop this over as well. And I'd stick my pen into there, my little pocket pen. So I'll show you a clip of that because I've actually sold the Benu Pixie on, but it always fit in there perfectly. So it's clear I still think Paper Republic makes beautiful products. And once I've worked my way through all my Clairefontaine Life Unplugged notebooks and whatever other little pocket books I find, I may well go back to the original Paper Republic refills or a slightly thicker GSM. But I also wanted to acknowledge that life changes, budgets change, priorities change, and sometimes the most sustainable thing that we can do is simply use up what we already own and look for alternatives. For me, that means spending the rest of this year and probably well into 2027 using this leather cover that I invested in back in 2023, while continuing to shop my own stationery collection for the notebooks inside and just creating a personalized system that works for who I am today. That said, if I were starting from scratch, I honestly think I'd still be drawn to Paper Republic. and I'll tell you why. Because if you enjoy making things yourself, then Seaweed Kisses is brilliant at showing you how to achieve that. Make your own leather cover for the notebooks that you own, that sort of thing. And if I didn't already own these, I'd probably give that a go. But not everyone is into DIY, and not everyone enjoys researching every insert, accessory, and notebook combination. I mean, I do now, but I didn't when I was extremely pressed for time. And yeah, like I said, I was a different person when I was working in my previous job. So some people love building a system completely from the ground up, while others get decision fatigue before they've even started. And that's where I think Paper Republic bundles can really shine, because back in 2023, I bought this pocket as part of the Writer's Bundle and the XL as part of their planner bundles. And they gave me a thoughtfully curated starting point that I didn't have to overthink. And over the last 3 years is how I've gradually adapted the system to suit the way that I actually work, including adding the generic elastic bands, adhesive pen loops, and now Clairefontaine notebooks. So when I look back over the last few years, I realize this isn't actually an isolated example. Like I mentioned, I left my Hobonichi cousin after 4 years, moved into Midori Codex A5 and a Kinbor Techo for the first time, and I'm enjoying questioning all my auto buys every time that it's time to buy something, or I think it's time to buy something, because appreciating the things that I already own has been such a joy, and staying open to alternatives when they genuinely improve my experience as well. I'd love to know whether you've been rethinking any of your own auto buys, exploring alternatives, adapting your systems, or simply stumbling across useful little hacks. Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.